to start off this video with a bit of a bold and possibly controversial statement. If you're always talking about like how much of a bookworm you are, how much you've always loved reading books even when you were a kid, and yet you still say that your favorite book you read growing up was the Harry Potter series, I don't believe you, I don't think. I'm not making fun of you if you're just a casual reader or you don't even like reading at all. Like, that makes sense, I get that. The people I'm making fun of are the people who like go on ModCloth or something and see a shirt that says, "At times I think to myself, drop the book and get stuff done. Then I laugh and turn the page." And they see that shirt and they're like, "That owl gets me. I'm gonna buy this and wear it." All I need really in life is like some good books and a nice cup of tea. And on the flip side, yeah, some people are that obsessed with books. But if you have read thousands of books in your life and you think that the best kids books are Harry Potter, you're a liar. You're a liar. I can't think anything else. There's definitely like levels of cultural knowledge about certain book series that I think a lot of kids read in either middle school or lower school. Once you get into high school, you get into like YA, and that's kind of a different vibe you get from those books. But the books you read from like the ages of 6 to maybe 12 or 13, I think are really, really interesting. Part of the reason that books like Harry Potter and Percy Jackson and other kind of classics have persisted in the public memory is because as you grew up reading the books, the characters grew up as well. And so did the tone. So like you're reading the first Harry Potter at like 11 and the characters are also 11, but by the end of the books they're about 17. And stories about older teenagers I think are taken a lot more seriously. I absolutely was one of those kids who was reading like books on the stairs and tripping over people. Like I read most of the big ones, Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Hunger Games, and then there's the stuff like Warrior Cats and Guardians of Ga'Hoole, all those cool animal books. I think ultimately I did prefer Guardians of Ga'Hoole over Warrior Cats just a bit, and it's an important distinction to make because personally I think whichever one you prefer helps to kind of decide what kind of furry you're gonna grow up to be. And I liked Harry Potter. I still think that there's a lot of good stuff in those books, a lot of not good, bad, horrible things. But if I was to like rank my top 10 books I read as a kid, I don't even think they would be in the top 10. So I kind of wanted to make a video about like beloved books from my childhood and kind of talk about the ones that I don't really feel like I see people talk about as much. Thinking about like the expansive fantasy series that I really loved as a kid, there were really two that popped into my mind. First was Deltora Quest. I absolutely loved Deltora Quest, and I was going to do some research on it and talk about it in this video, and then I kind of realized that I think it's a lot bigger in other countries, specifically Australia, where the author is from, and also actually Japan, where there was an anime adaptation of it, which is wild. I actually suggest that you watch this video by someone called Wolf the Story Nomad, who I found while looking up things for this video. It's kind of a really comprehensive Deltora Quest video that I think is really well done. And then the other like big main one for me was Secrets of Droon. I'm trying to remember like what Secrets of Droon is about all these years later. It's about 3 kids. The main one is Eric, and then his friends are Neil and Julie, and they were basically just the Harry Potter trio. It's very clear that like Eric is Harry, Neil is Ron, and Julie is Hermione. But besides that, they are pretty different, I think, mainly because Secrets of Droon is a portal fantasy. It's about these kids and they like go into Eric's basement and they discover a secret door to this fantasy world of Droon. Of the 3 kids I remember at the time, my favorite was Neil, because he is exactly the type of character that is always my favorite. The kind of dorky best friend of the main character who isn't really particularly special himself, but just like tries to cheer people up and have a good time and then gets sad sometimes, and I always feel really sad too. It's why I still have a fondness for Xander from Buffy, despite the fact that he is Xander from Buffy. And in Secrets of Droon, they were all 3 of them normal kids at the beginning, but if I remember correctly, at some point, Eric gets hit by a magic spell meant to hurt him, but then it gives him magic powers somehow, and then he's a wizard. And then Julie, I think, gets bitten by a flying werewolf, and then she can like fly and shapeshift. But Neil, if I remember correctly, never had anything like that happen to him. In fact, I specifically remember throughout my life I've had kind of a horrific fear of both bugs and kind of non-consensual body transmogrification. And in an early book, I think that Neil starts turning into a bug, and like a giant bug, not a little bug. He has like antennae and like the little fuzzy, it was horrifying. And then like they manage to turn him back, but then also sometimes he just becomes bug a little bit. He just sometimes randomly gets bug parts. Shaking hands with Gregor Samsa, sometimes he just turned into a bug. But what I wanted to do for Secrets of Droon, because I remember so little about it, despite the fact that I love it and some very specific details, I wanted to go on the wiki. Wikis for like somewhat obscure fandoms are like my favorite websites ever, just because depending on the type of people who are in that fandom, it is either extremely comprehensively researched or very bare bones. So I went to the Secrets of Droon wiki, or I guess just Droon wiki, which makes sense because they're not secrets if you're telling them here. 125 articles made in 2006. That's not a great sign. I kind of want to just do like a deep dive into this wiki to see how well I remember things. Let's start with my man Neil. What's he up to? Okay, there's a very tiny pixelated picture of him. He's a genie? When did that happen? Neil's main personality factors are humor and hunger. Mood. Neil is very good at using what talents he has to benefit the plan, especially if it means having fun, eating, or inflating his ego. Neil was a very nutty boy indeed. Okay, I was right, he does turn into a bug in book 3. Since then, Neil has at various times become a baby turtle, a goblin, and now a full-fledged genie. When did that happen? I must have stopped reading them at some point because I don't remember a lot of that. Let's look at Eric. Boy, oh boy, they're really just not hiding the Harry Potter, are they? I remember Princess Kia, she was awesome. Oh, I guess he marries Kia at some point? I mean, good for them. A bit predictable, I feel like. Spar, that's the villain. I think he turns into a teen at some point. It's like if right before they defeated Voldemort, instead he turned into like Tom Riddle at age like 10. That's something that just happens. Okay, what's a Groggle? I need to know what a Groggle is. Okay, they're dragons. Just call them dragons. You don't need to call them Groggles, man. I should look at Julie too, just to be fair. Okay, oh, I'm surprised I didn't project onto Julie, actually. My name was Julia, which is close. And that was my haircut, right there. She can fly and shapeshift and also see into the past? These guys got OP. Her page is much less filled out. What's up with Kia? Jaffa City? There's a bunch of cakes there, I guess? At the end of Wizard or Witch, she learned how to combine dark and light magic, which is the color purple that is the color mix of blue and red. Honestly, Bicon. Eric is the descendant of whoever the fuck Queen Zara is. Is Kia also related to that person? Wait, no, he and Spar related. What is happening? Why is Kia the princess then? I think I need to get out of the Droon wiki because I'm going to go down some kind of rabbit hole. So yeah, Secrets of Droon was a thing that existed, I guess. The next series I wanted to talk about was the Secret series. Look at this, look at this. I have all of them except for the last one. I think I only ever got the last one from the library. I wish I had it. The Secret series was very much in the vein of stuff like A Series of Unfortunate Events, but it was, again, not as popular, I don't think. And the thing that I loved about the Secret series was the fact that it was written like they were making this guy write the book. Like, seriously, the first page says, "Warning, do not read beyond this page." And I love so much about this opening of this first book, and I kind of just want to read it. When you open the book, it gets to the first page and it says, "Good, now I know I can trust you. You're curious, you're brave, and you're not afraid to lead a life of crime. Let's get something straight. If, despite my warning, you insist on reading this book, you can't hold me responsible for the consequences. And make no bones about it, this is a very dangerous book. No, it won't blow up in your face, or bite your head off, or tear you limb from limb. It probably won't injure you at all, unless somebody throws it at you, which is a possibility that should never be discounted. Generally speaking, books don't cause much harm, except when you read them, that is. Then they cause all kinds of problems. Books can, for example, give you ideas. I don't know if you've ever had an idea before, but if you have, you know how much trouble an idea can get you into. Books can also provoke emotions, and emotions sometimes are even more troublesome than ideas. Emotions have led people to do all sorts of things they later regret, like, oh, throwing a book at someone else. But the main reason this book is so dangerous is that it concerns a secret. A big secret. It's funny the way secrets work. If you don't know about a secret, it doesn't bother you. You can go about your business without a care in the world. La la la, you sing, everything's fine and dandy. Maybe you don't actually sing la la la, but you know what I mean. But as soon as you hear about the secret, it starts to nag at you. What is this secret, you wonder? Why am I not supposed to know about it? Why is it so important? Suddenly you're dying to know what the secret is. You beg, you plead, you threaten, you cajole. You promise never to tell anyone else. You try anything and everything. You dig into the secret keeper's belongings. You pull his or her hair. And when that doesn't work, you pull your own. Not knowing a secret is just about the worst thing in the world. No, I can think of one thing worse. Knowing a secret. Read on if you must. But remember, I warned you. Like, I opened this book at the library and I'm like, whoa! Even just look at like the copyright page. That's amazing. The kid opens this book and they're like, what is happening? I'm not supposed to read this. And if I remember correctly, one of the other things that I really love about this book is kind of the journey of our protagonist, Cass, where she starts out very much as one of those I'm not like other girls type girls. But there's a scene in the last book that really stuck with me. And I wish I could read it, but again, I don't have the book, where she and like the other two main characters who are both young boys are like in some other city trying to solve the mystery, and she kind of asks them to go do something else for the day because she wants to do something, and the boys go do karaoke and it's very cute. And then Cass goes and gets a manicure for the first time, and she's extremely embarrassed and kind of hating herself for doing that because she doesn't like to be traditionally feminine. And there's like this whole part where it's talking about like, it's totally fine, do whatever you want. I know you don't want to be feminine, but that doesn't mean you can't do feminine things sometimes. And listen, that's a message I needed to hear. The third series I want to talk about is a series that I'm actually surprised is not more of a well-known thing than it is. Because you think about like the classic books that young girls read that kind of get them into reading. And you think about stuff like Little Women, Anne of Green Gables, Secret Garden, Little Princess. But I hardly ever hear people talking about Betsy, Tacy, and Tib. The series is called the Betsy Tacy books. And while the first book is called Betsy Tacy after the two main characters, Betsy and Tacy, later on Tib joins the group, and then by the end, in the last like half of the series, it's really just about Betsy at that point. Kind of like how in Little Women it starts out being about the whole family. By the end it's Joe's, it's about Joe. That's in part because the writer Maud Hart Lovelace really based those books on her own childhood, where she based Betsy off of herself and Tacy and Tib off of two of her childhood friends. These books were published in the 1940s and 50s, and I really think looking at this list of all of the books, I really only read over and over again the first four. And I'm pretty sure it's because in the fifth is when Betsy starts going to high school, and I wasn't in high school yet, so she started to feel just like way further along in life than me. But the first four books are her from the ages of like 6 to 12. That was more what I wanted to read about. I think my favorite was the third book, Betsy and Tacy Go Over the Big Hill, because there's like this big hill in their town and they want to see what's on the other side. And like, cause they're kids, it's like such a arduous process to get over the hill. And the moment when they do finally get over the hill and see that there's like tens of other houses on the other side of the hill, and their world just like expands, a moment that really sticks in my head very well. But yeah, I am so surprised that these books are not more well known. I think they're definitely of the quality of something like Anne of Green Gables. These books have never been adapted into anything, which I think is ridiculous because they are ripe to be adapted. Finally, the last thing I want to talk about is not a whole series, it's just one book. But it's the book that when I thought about it, made me want to make this video as a whole. And I remembered so much about the book, but I couldn't remember the title. And so I Googled book where girls spun egg. And thank you, Google. They knew exactly what I was talking about. Abby Carnelia's One and Only Magical Power. So the premise of this book is that this girl, Abby, one day is just like in her kitchen with her family, trying to convince her mother to let her get her ears pierced, so she's like pulling on her earlobes a little bit, and there is a hard-boiled egg sitting on the counter. And when she looks at the hard-boiled egg while pulling on her ears, she discovers that it just kind of slowly starts rotating. And that is just a magical power that she has. And she gets recruited by this like pharmaceutical company to go to this camp where there are a bunch of other kids who have very similar powers. If I remember correctly, there was like a boy who discovered that if he recites the alphabet backwards while using a Darth Vader voice, he can fog up a window. Just like the weirdest, most obscure little powers possible. And eventually, like, Abby and the people that she meets at this camp discover that they are being exploited somehow, and they try to overthrow capitalism, which is always a good theme to have in a book. And one of the things is that there is another kid at that camp who has lied his way in. He kind of faked having a power by doing a magic trick. And then towards the end of the book, they discover he actually does have a power, just something completely different. I forget what he does, but his power is that, like, he can make a piece of printer paper turn one shade darker. And what they realize by the end is that literally every kid in the entire world has some kind of weird, specific power that 99.9% of kids will never discover just because they will never be in the correct situation to activate that power. And I just think that's like such an excellent lesson to teach a kid. Because the thing about like Harry Potter is that You know, reading it, that your parents are not wizards, but Muggleborns exist in the world of Harry Potter. So you could be a Muggleborn. And so you're waiting when you turn 11, like maybe I'll be a wizard, maybe I'll get the letter, and then you don't. And you're like, oh, well, guess I'm not special. But according to this book, every kid has some spark of magic. It's just something so ultra specific that you may never find out what it is, but it is there. You have it. And I think that that's very comforting for a kid to read. So yeah, those are the books that I wanted to talk about in this video. If you have any really influential books from your childhood that you don't see enough people talking about nowadays, please let me know in the comments. I guess I should say to like and subscribe. That's a new thing I need to do. And thank you for watching.